Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, we're carrying on with our Veteran Week, and we've got something a little bit different for you today. As you can see, it's the Boltgun, my favourite weapon to play with on the Veteran and on the Zealot. So let's jump in and take a look at what we're using. First of all, let us appreciate the delightful outfit. Now, the Tank Commander Commissar, it's lovely. Anyway, weapons. So, melee-wise, I'm actually going to give you a few different choices for this because we're not locked into using one specific weapon to make this build work. First of all, I will show the dueling sword because it's ridiculously overpowered in every sense of the word, and it seems to be everyone's favourite. I'm not a massive fan of it. I find it a bit clunky, but I will not deny its just ability to wreck everything. So, modifier way, we're going with damage, finesse, cleave damage, and penetration. Lol. And mobility is our dump. Perk wise, we're going with flak armored enemies and maniac. You can switch out maniac for unyielding or for carapace, depending on what you want to try and kill. But with the inbuilt breakpoints of the dueling sword, it's not entirely necessary, but you can. So, perks, Black and Maniac. Blessings wise, we're going for Thrust, which gives us up to 20% strength based on the charge time of your heavy attack, stacking 3 times, so that's 60% of fully charged. And Uncanny Strike, which gives us plus 24% rending on enemy weak spot hits for 3.5 seconds, stacking 5 times. Rending is basically armor penetration. Now, let's see what I mean by... So this is a carapace. We have no increased modifier against it. If I could actually hit it properly, the example would be a little bit better. Still, 2 shots to the head goes down quite easily. But if the dueling sword is not your jam, there are other options. For example, you could use the Assault Chainsword. The Mark 13G is pretty good, with mobility being the dump as always. Perk-wise, flak and unarmored. This is going to help you clear through those shambling hordes. With Shred and Wrath stacking up to give you lots of crit and lots of cleave. Or if you want to go for pure horde clearance, you can go for Savage Sweep and Rampage. They're all very good weapons to use. I mean, just pick your favourite, really. The build is not contingent on one melee weapon. But for sake of argument, we'll stick with the dueling sword. And if you really want to, and you want to make sure those hits to the crushers or whatever, or the maulers, go for carapace or unyielding. There we go, brain's working again. Completely up to you. I've gone for Maniac just to help us deal with the specials, especially when we get caught in the middle of combat. Because with this build, you're not going to be at range too much. You are going to be in the thick of it with the rest of the team. Now, for the Boltgun, my favoritist of all favourite weapons. Again, there are a few ways to build this, and I will go through each of them for you. As this is just a setup that I've been using most, but there are other ways to do it. So, we are going with damage, reload, stability, and collateral as our main, and mobility as our dump. Perk-wise, we've gone for flak and unyielding. Flak because it's the most prevalent armor type in the game, and unyielding is so that we can mag dump into bosses and monstrosities and do as much damage as we can get away with. Now, for the blessings, Shattering Impact. It's a very powerful ability, especially if you would just imagine for a moment a pack of crushers looming down on you. Shattering Impact is going to shred the armor off of them as they come. What it does is target receives 4 stacks of 2.5% brittleness on direct projectile hit. Debuff lasts 5 seconds and can have a maximum of 16 stacks. And then Cavalcade gives us plus 5% critical chance for every 10% of the magazine spent during continuous fire, stacking 5 times. So as our mag gets lower, our crit chance goes up. Now, let's see if I can find the differences for the other bolt guns. If I can't, we'll just jump into the blessings and have a look for ourselves. There we go. So, as I've said in the other videos, bleed currently is incredibly powerful. So you can swap out Cavalcade for puncture. It does sound like a weird option to take, but bleeding enemies take a lot more damage than you think they do. Ranged hits adds 4 stacks of bleed to an enemy. Now, there doesn't actually say that there is a cap on the amount of bleed the enemy can take. It just says it takes 4 stacks on a ranged hit. Bleeding doesn't actually suffer from that much diminishing returns at the moment. The same with Infernus and, to a lesser degree, the Psyker's Soul Blaze, I think it's called. So, in higher difficulties, especially in Havoc, bleed is incredibly strong. So it is actually recommended, if you want to drop the crit from Cavalcade and take puncture. So you're really increasing your damage quite a lot by doing that. I just enjoy taking Cavalcade. But as I said, this is not the be-all and end-all. This is the only meta way to do it. No, this is just a Boltgun build that I enjoy playing with. But I am giving you the options if you want to take it down that route. Now, if you want to go for pure survivability, you can ignore Cavalcade and Puncture and go for Inspiring Barrage. This is going to help regen some of that toughness. On a Zealot, I would say this is a lot more important than it is on the Veteran because you have other ways of regenerating the toughness. As I said, I'm just giving you options here. So, Cavalcade or Puncture, both are very, very good, or Inspiring Barrage if you're just starting out and need that little bit of extra help. Oh, god damn, I hate them. There we go. I hate it. There we go. Much better. So yes, several ways of doing the Boltgun. I do love the Boltgun. There are some drawbacks to it, and we'll talk about those in a bit. As for curios, again, because I'm a professional and do everything before streaming, I'm using the wrong ones. That's better. So, we're going to be using the twinned toughness curios again, with extra toughness, toughness regeneration speed, and damage resistance gunners. This doesn't actually work out to 40% like you'd think it does because it's suffering from quite large diminishing returns, and it works out to about 31 to 32-ish% instead of the 40. If you're using all 3 damage resistance gunners curios, it would work out more. Instead of 60, it would be down to about 43%. But gunners are some of the most scary enemies in the game because they're still ridiculously overpowered and they will shred the toughness off you in a second. And we're taking the toughness generation speed because, as I've said in all the other videos, you are a toughness whore as a veteran. You produce it, you keep it, and you reduce damage done with it. It does not work if you are trying to be a lone wolf. You don't want to be a lone wolf, you want to stay in coherency with your team. And while you're in coherency, you are regenerating buckets and buckets of toughness. And the reason some people find it doesn't work is because you're trying to play the main character. It's a team game, stay in coherency. And I've already heard the argument, well, what if you're the last player standing? Well, you've got bigger problems. If you're the last person standing, you have far bigger problems than a curio perk. And for the last one, we are taking max health. And that's just because I like to have a bit of health as a buffer if things go terribly, terribly wrong. If you are having all of your toughness stripped off of you, this little bit of health is going to give you a few extra seconds to try and remedy the situation and either get back to your team or get into a better position that you can take cover from. If you really want to, you can run all 3 toughness curios. Completely up to you. I'm not your mum. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. We are going to take extra toughness on this curio and also stamina regeneration. Again, we're not taking the stamina regeneration because we want stamina to regenerate faster. We're taking it to reduce the delay for when it starts to regenerate, because stamina is useful. As much as I harp on about hating movement speed, it is very, very useful. So it's not the speed at which it regenerates, it's the speed at which the delay starts. And that's how we take 1 singular pip of regeneration speed. There you go. That is the curios for you. And now let's take a look at the talents. We'll start off over here on the left with Longshot, deal up to 20% range-based damage. Damage bonus is reduced the nearer to the target. We are having to take some weird choices in this to make the bolt gun work, because unlike the plasma gun, there is no way to actually kind of break the reload speed. So we're not taking Accelerating Takedown, we are actually taking Volley Adept, plus 30% reload speed on elite and specialist enemy kill. This is very important. So we're taking reload speed here, and then over here we are taking one motion plus 25% weapon swap speed. I know I said in the last video, never ever take this, but that is with the plasma gun. With the bolt gun, you definitely want this because it's like wrestling a greased puppy trying to get this thing out. And then we're going to be taking tactical reload, which gives us plus 25% reload speed if your weapon contains ammo. It's very important to try and keep at least one shell in the gun to reload with. So as you can see, it's very, very powerful. And with one shell in the gun, the reload speed is actually quite decent. But if I blow out all the ammo, actually we'll do it to the floor, we'll get the actual reload speed. The reload speed is quite painful otherwise. And as you can see, swapping to the other weapon, it's still quite hefty to get out, even with the increased speed from one motion. But with tactical reload and with volley adept, it gives you a pretty decent 55% increase, so it makes the gun very, very usable. Now, we've made the gun usable, let's make the build usable. Next up, we've got Close Order Drill, up to 33% toughness damage reduction, the more allies in coherency. Into Confirmed Kill, replenish 10% toughness on elite or specialist enemy kill, and a further 20% toughness over 10 seconds. Into Stamina Boost, into Toughness Boost, and then we're grabbing Crack Grenade. I've said this in every other veteran video. If you don't like the Crack Grenade, take the Shredder Frag Grenade. I understand why the Shredder Frag Grenade is very, very good. It stuns, it staggers, and it applies bleed, which is incredibly powerful. I just prefer the Crack Grenade because I'm incredibly boring. If you want to take this, you take the point out of here, and then you find one other point to put into this, because you need one, and then a second point to be able to link it back into the tree. We'll try and do that further down the tree. We'll try and figure out a point that we can take. So the Crack Grenade is amazing because it will basically delete anything up to a monstrosity, and even on a monstrosity, you throw all of your grenades onto it, and then you mag dump into them. This is an incredibly bursty build. And then we're going into a health boost, and then we're picking up Grenade Tinkerer to increase the damage of the Crack Grenade and the damage and radius of the Frag Grenade. And it also increases the fact that I'm going to ignore the Smoke Grenade. Down into Fire Team, plus 5% damage for you and your allies in coherency. Into Toughness Damage Reduction, and then we're taking Demolition Stockpile, which gives you one grenade every 60 seconds to keep you out of the rat race of finding grenades. And then we're taking my favourite, Voice of Command, which replenishes your toughness and staggers all enemies within 9 meters. Base cooldown is 30 seconds. Then we're taking Duty and Honor. Voice of Command now also provides you and your allies in coherency with plus 50 toughness for 15 seconds. This can exceed your maximum toughness. It's kind of like a toughness overshield, but not quite. And then we're going to be taking Suppression Boost for Suppression Dealt. And then over here, we're grabbing Range Damage Boost for 5% range damage, into Precision Strikes for 30% weak spot damage, into Fully Loaded for more ammo, and then into Superiority Complex for 15% base damage against elites. And then we're taking Marksman. On ability use, for 10 seconds, any weak spot hit gains 20% strength. Now, if you need the extra point to be able to take the Shredder Frag Grenade, I would take it from Marksman. It is a little bit of a damage loss for you, but it does enable you to take quite a powerful blitz ability. And then over into the middle, for the Emperor, your combat ability gives you and your allies incoherency plus 10% melee base damage and 10% range base damage. And then into Tactical Awareness, combat ability cooldown reduced by 6 seconds on specialist enemy kill. There's generally any of these. As you can see down the bottom, it's stacked up. And this will allow us to use Voice of Command a lot more, which will then in case let us get all these lovely buffs from using it. Then into Iron Will. Plus 50% reduced toughness damage if above 75% toughness. This is not too difficult to keep up, especially because of voice of command and our ability to keep voice of command running quite a lot of the time. And then into toughness boost, and then we're actually taking rending strikes in this one because the Boltgun does actually benefit from rending quite a lot more than the plasma does because of its rapid fire nature and quite hard hitting rounds. And we're also taking Bring It Down, which gives us plus 20% damage to Ogryns and monstrosities, into Focus Target, our keystone ability. Gain Focus Target every 2 seconds, stacking up 5 times. Tagging an enemy applies Focus Target stacks to them, causing them to take 4% additional damage for each stack, and resets your focus targets down to 1. And then we're taking Focused Fire, which increases our stacks to 8. This is just increasing the damage we can apply with our Focus Target ability. So as you can see there, I tagged, I used Voice of Command to proc all of our damaging stuff, and it made the bad man go away. Do beware though, the Boltgun does fire in volleys, so you have 2 rounds left. It will fire both of them, therefore not allowing you to keep a round in the gun for reloading purposes. But because they buffed the gun quite a lot, it is now completely usable to counter snipe, which was something damn near impossible before Grim Protocols, or Unlocked and Loaded, whichever the hell one it was. I've lost count now. But as you can see, it's not perfectly stable, but it is stable enough for you to be able to make those long shots to counter snipe and help your team out. Whereas before, you would generally have to be within about 5 meters to make this gun worth using at all. Just remember, keep a round in the gun. But there you go, folks. That is the Boltgun build for the Veteran. It's one of my very favourite builds. It's incredibly fun to use, very effective, and I have tried this out in Havoc, and it does work just fine. The only downside to this build in Havoc is the lack of ammo. You have to be far more conservative with your ammo usage in Havoc than you would do, say, in Maelstrom, Auric Damnation, and so on. So just keep that in mind. There is a bit of a pitfall in Havoc if you're going to be using it. But it's just incredibly powerful and very fun. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. Until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.